How's it going, everybody? Finally finishing up Goosebumps, the Headless Ghost here today. I'm actually filming a second Goosebumps related video after this one, show and tell with the Goosebumps books that I have. So I'll talk more about that then. I don't think this is going to be a long one because I only have not much of that much left. Then you get a little preview of the abominable snowman of Pasadena. I forget the kids' names here and everything. But they went to that house. They like to screw the kids in town by playing pranks. But they want to go to this haunted house for a real scare. That's legitimately haunted, but this person lost their head. They go in there. They come across a kid who ends up being a ghost. And he wants the one kid's head. Like I said, I can't remember their names. They'll come up in here. Stephanie's one of them. And now they're in the house trying to get out. As this one headless kid wants the other kid's head. Because they're trying to find the head from the stories and stuff. Oh my god. Here we go. The ghost leaped at me, hands outstretched. I ducked and stumbled back. As the wall slid away, the wall made a loud, grinding sound as it slowly spun around. Stephanie fell to the floor. I pulled her up quickly as Andrew made another wild grab for my head. A tunnel, I shouted, over the grinding of the wall. As the wall spun away, it revealed a dark opening, just big enough to squeeze through. I pulled Stephanie inside. I pulled Stephanie to the opening, and we squeezed inside. We found ourselves in a long, low passageway, some kind of tunnel, hidden behind the sliding wall. I'd always heard about old houses that had secret walls, halls, and hidden rooms built in them. I never thought I'd be so glad to find one. Stephanie and I started to run. Our footsteps echoed loudly on the concrete floor. We ran past bare concrete walls, cracked and pitted by time. We had to stoop as we ran. The ceiling wasn't as tall as we were. Just keep running, I cried. Oh, sorry. I skipped him. Stephanie slowed down to glance back. Is he following us? Just keep running, I cried. This tunnel has got to lead out of here, out of this house. It's got to. I can't see where it leads, she replied breathlessly. The low tunnel stretched out in a straight line. I could see only darkness at the end. Did it stretch on forever? If it did, I'd keep running forever. I didn't plan to stop running until I was safely outside. And once I was outside, I planned never to visit Hill House again. I planned to stay away from ghosts and to keep my head on my shoulders where it belonged. Big plans. But plans don't always work out. Oh, Stephanie and I both cried out as we nearly crashed into a solid concrete wall. The tunnel ended. It just ended. It doesn't go anywhere, I gasped. Breathing hard, I pounded both fists against the wall. Who would build a secret tunnel that leads nowhere? Push on the wall, Stephanie cried. Let's both push. Maybe this wall will slide open too. We turned and leaned our shoulders into the wall and pushed. Groaning and gasping, I pushed with all my strength. I was still pushing when I heard the scraping footsteps moving towards us down the tunnel. Andrew. Push, Chris died. Push, Stephanie cried. We shoved ourselves against the wall. Come on, slide, I ordered it. I glanced back and saw Andrew jogging slowly, steadily towards us. We're trapped, Stephanie moaned. She collapsed against the wall with a sigh. Andrew came trotting closer. Dwayne, I want your head, he called, his voice echoing against the concrete walls. Trapped, Stephanie murmured. Maybe not, I choked out. I pointed at the dark corner. Look, a ladder. Huh? Stephanie leaped to her feet. She squinted at the ladder, a metal ladder. The rungs blanketed with dust. It led straight up the wall, to a small square opening in the low ceiling. To where? Give me your head, the ghost called. I grabbed the sides of the metal ladder. I raised a foot onto the first rung and peered straight up. Into thick blackness darkness. I couldn't see a thing up there. Dwayne, that's the other kid's name. Dwayne, Stephanie whispered. We don't know where it leads. It doesn't matter, I replied, starting to climb. We don't have a choice, do we? Chapter 29. I'm skipping an eye on the cat here. Where are you going, Dwayne? I need your head. I ignored the ghost shout and scrambled up the ladder. Stephanie kept bumping me from behind. My sneakers slipped on the thick dust. My hands slid over the cold metal railings. Dwayne, you can't get away, Andrew called from down below. Straight up the ladder, Stephanie and I, breathing hard, climbing frantically as fast as we could climb. Straight up until the ladder started to tilt. No, I uttered a scream as it spilled forward. A crumbling, cracking noise drowned out my scream. It took me a few seconds to realize that the wall was breaking apart, crumbling into powdery chunks. And we were falling. I heard Stephanie scream. I grabbed the metal railings with both hands and held on tight, but the ladder was sailing down now, tumbling over the cracking, crumbling old wall. Ow! I landed hard, bounced once, twice. My hands flew up, and I tossed off the ladder. I rolled onto my stomach, rolled in the chunks of dirt and concrete of the broken wall. Stephanie landed on her knees. She shook her head, dazed. Chunks of wall spilled all around us. Stephanie's hair was covered in dust. I shielded my eyes and waited for the wall to stop crumbling down. When I opened my eyes, Andrew stood above me. His hands were balled into fists. His mouth hung open and he was staring past me. I struggled to my feet, turned to see what he was staring at. A hidden room, Stephanie cried, moving beside me, a room behind the old wall. Slipping over the chunks of broken concrete, I took a few steps closer to the room, and saw what Andrew was staring at. A head. A boy's head lying on the floor of the hidden room. I don't believe it, Stephanie gasped. We found it. We actually found it. I swallowed hard and took a careful step forward. The head was pale, shimmering white, even in the dim light. I could clearly see that it was a boy's head, but the long, wavy hair had turned to white. The round eyes glowed green, sparkling with emeralds in the shimmering pale face. The ghost head, I murmured. I turned back to Andrew. Your head, we found it for you. I expected to see a smile on his face. I expected him to shout or jump for joy. For 100 years, he had waited for this happy moment. Now his long search was over, but to my shock, Andrew's face was twisted in horror. He wasn't even looking at his long-lost head. He was staring above it. And as he stared, his entire body began to quiver. Frightened cries escaped his lips. Andrew, what is your problem? I demanded. I don't think he even heard me. He stared up at the ceiling, trembling, hands balled into tight fists at his sides, and slowly raised one hand and pointed. No, he moaned. Oh no. I turned to see what had frightened him. Turned in time to see a filmy figure float down from the ceiling. At first I thought it was a thin window curtain falling from above, but as it curled slowly and softly to the floor, I saw that it had arms and legs. I could see right through it. The air around us suddenly grew cold. It's a ghost, Stephanie cried, grabbing my arm. Wow, chapter 30 is a long one. Just kidding. The ghost landed softly. How does the ghost land? The ghost landed softly, silently on the floor of the hidden room, raising its arms like bird wings. Stephanie and I both gasped as it raised its arms and stood upright. It was short and very thin. It wore baggy, old-fashioned looking pants and a long-sleeved shirt with a high collar, and no head. The ghost had no head. I felt a burst of cold air as it bent down, shimmering, bending, as if made of soft gauze. It reached down, lifted the head off the floor, lifted the head to the stiff, tall collar, gently pressed the head into place. And as the head touched the ghostly, gauzy neck, the green eyes flashed, the cheeks twitched, the pale white eyebrows arched up and down. And then the mouth moved. The ghost turned to us, to Stephanie and me, and the lips moved in a silent thank you, thank you. And then the arms rose into the air, its green eyes still on us. The ghost floated up into the air. Lighter than air, it floated silently up. I watched in amazement, my heart pounding, until the ghostly figure vanished in the darkness. And Stephanie and I both turned to Andrew at the same time. We'd just seen the headless ghost. We'd just seen Andrew, the boy from 100 years ago. We just watched him collect his head. but the boy who claimed to be Andrew was still there. He stood behind us, still trembling, his eyes wide, staring into the hidden room, making soft swallowing sounds. I narrowed my eyes at him. If you aren't Andrew, I started. If you aren't the headless ghost, then who are you? 31. Stephanie turned to the boy, too. Yeah, who are you? She asked angrily. If you're not a headless ghost, the headless ghost, why do you chase us? I demanded. Well, The boy raised both hands as if surrendering. Then he started to back away. He only got 3 or 4 steps when we heard footsteps coming down the long tunnel. I turned to Stephanie, another ghost. Who's in here? A deep voice boomed. I saw a circle of light from a flashlight sweeping over the tunnel floor. Who is here? The voice repeated. I recognized that deep voice. Otto. He was the guy they knew who, did the tours. One of the people who did the tours in the house. Back here, the boy called softly. Seth, is that you? The circle of light floated closer. Otto appeared behind it, squinting at us. What's going on? What are you doing back here? This part of the house is dangerous. It's all falling apart. Well, we were exploring, Seth started. And we got lost. It wasn't really our fault. Otto gazed at Seth sternly. Then his face filled with surprise as flashlight washed over Stephanie and me. You two? How'd you get in? What are you doing here? He let us in, I answered. I pointed at Seth. Otto turned back to Seth and shook his head unhappily. More of your tricks. Were you scaring these kids? Not really, Uncle Otto, Seth replied, keeping his eyes to the ground. Uncle Otto. So Seth was Otto's nephew. No wonder he knew so much about Hill House. Tell the truth, Seth, Otto insisted. Were you pretending to be a ghost again? Haven't you played that trick on enough kids? Haven't you scared enough kids to death? Well, he'd be wanted for murder then. Seth stood silent. Otto rubbed his hand over his smooth, bald head. Then he turned out a weary sigh. We have a business to run here, he told Seth. Do you want to scare my customers away? Do you want to get the whole neighborhood upset? Seth lowered his head and still didn't reply. I could see that he was in major trouble, so I decided to jump in. It's okay, Otto. I said. He didn't scare us. That's right, Stephanie chimed in. We didn't believe he was a ghost, did we, Dwayne? Of course not, he replied. He didn't fool us for a minute. Especially when we saw the real ghost Stephanie had. And Otto turned to her, studying her in the light from the flashlight. The what? The real ghost, Stephanie insisted. We saw the real ghost, Uncle Otto, Seth exclaimed. It was awesome. Otto rolled his eyes. Say the joke, Seth. It's too late at night. You're just trying to get out of trouble. No, really, I insisted. Really, Seth and Stephanie cried. We saw the headless ghost, Uncle Otto. You gotta believe us, Seth pleaded. Sure. Otto muttered. He turned around and motioned with his flashlight. Come on, everyone out. Final chapter here. Oh shit, they all get their throats slit. After a scary night at the Hill House, Stephanie and I gave up haunting the neighborhood. It just wasn't that exciting anymore, especially since we'd seen a real ghost. We stopped sneaking out at night. We stopped peeking into kids' windows in scary masks. We stopped hiding behind bushes and howling like werewolves in the middle of the night. We gave up all the scary stuff, and we never even talked about ghosts. Stephanie and I found other things to be interested in. I tried out for the basketball team at school, and I became a starting forward. Stephanie joined the Theater Arts Club. This spring, she's going to be Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Either Dorothy or a munchkin. We had a good winter, lots of snow, lots of unscary fun. Then late one evening, when we were heading home from a birthday party, it was the first warm night of spring. Tulips were blooming in some of the front yards we passed. The air smelled fresh and sweet. I stopped in front of the Hill House and gazed up at the old mansion. Stephanie stopped behind me. She read my mind. You want to go in, don't you, Dwayne? I nodded. How about taking the tour? We haven't been in there since... My voice trailed off. Hey, why not? Stephanie replied. We climbed the steep hill. Tall weeds brushed the legs of my jeans as I made my way to the front door. The huge old house stood as dark and as creepy as ever. Instead, as Stephanie and I climbed onto the front stoop, the door creaked open, as it always had. We stepped into the small front entryway. And a few seconds later, Otto bounced into view, dressed all in black, a friendly smile on his round, bald head. You too, he exclaimed happily. Welcome back. He called into the front room. Edna, come see who's here. Edna came tottering into the room. "Oh my," she cried, pressing a hand against her pale, wrinkled face. "We were wondering if we would see you two again." I gazed into the front room. No other customers. "Can you take us on the tour?" I asked Otto. He smiled his toothy smile. "Of course. Wait, I'll get my lantern." Otto took us around Hill House. He gave us a complete tour. It was great to see the house again, but it no longer held any secrets for Stephanie and me. After the tour, we thanked Otto and said goodnight. We were halfway down the hill when a police car pulled up to the curb. Oh, here we go. A dark uniformed officer stuck his head out the passenger window. "What were you kids doing up there?" he called. Stephanie and I made our way down to the police car. Two officers eyed us suspiciously. "We took the tour," I explained, pointing up the hill house. "Tour? What tour?" the officer demanded gruffly. "You know, the haunted house tour," Stephanie replied impatiently. The police officer stuck his head further out the window. He had blue eyes and freckles all over his face. "What were you really doing up there?" he asked softly. "We told you," I said shrilly, "taking the tour, that's all." Behind the wheel, the other policeman chuckled. "Maybe a ghost gave him the tour," he told his partner. "There are no tours," the freckle-faced officer said, frowning. "There haven't been any tours in that house for months." Stephanie and I both uttered cries of surprise. "The house is empty," the police officer continued. "Shut down. There hasn't been anyone in there all winter. Hill House went out of business 3 months ago." "Huh?" Stephanie and I exchanged startled glances, then we both turned to gaze up at the house. The gray stone turrets rose into the purple, black sky. Nothing but darkness all around, and then I saw a trail of soft light across the front window. A lantern light, orange and soft as smoke. In the soft light, I saw Otto and Edna. They floated in front of the window. I could see right through them, as if they were made of gauze. "There goes two," I realized, staring into soft, smoky light. I blinked, and the light faded out. And that is it. They've got a real head start. Pretty decent one here. These Goosebumps books always have those kind of endings. This wasn't a bad one, though. Finally finished it after like a year. Major headache. But yeah, this is just the finale of Goosebumps, The Headless Ghost. I'll have these all in their playlist if you want to check them all out. Don't forget to watch Goosebumps on Fox Kids TV. When did this come out? 95. But yeah. Thanks for checking this out, and have a good day.